is no legal precedent for mandatory poisons so long as there is a treatment available. Therefore, Big Pharma must deny the efficiency of HCQ or their entire plan blows up after they went all in, taking enormous losses to make it happen. Failure would be catastrophic. So the reason those frontline doctors are being taken down and everyone talking about HCQ is because if there is a cure available, no poison can be pushed via emergency use authorization. One of the stipulations to getting emergency approval for poisons is there must be no adequate, approved and available alternative. This is why they are squashing and censoring any talk of effective treatments. Emergency use authorization, qualifying criteria, declaration by HHS Secretary of Emergency Situation leading to serious or life-threatening disease or condition, evidence of effectiveness for product intended to address emergency, EUA standard may be effect. They lied about thalidomide, tobacco, asbestos, Gulf of Tonkin, lead in paint, fluoride, JFK assassination, mercury fillings, pesticides, artificial sweeteners, poison safety, antibiotics, glyphosate, chemotherapy, climate change, 9/11, Vegas massacre, Russiagate. But now they're telling the truth about bullshit. Masks and poisons. Have you ever noticed that people won't take the time to look up important information, but they'll spend 15 minutes taking a quiz to find out what kind of potato they are? No need for gas chambers when poisons will do the job slowly and quietly and nobody will even know it's a holocaust. I see dead people. Why is training to kill people free, but training to save lives costs thousands? Bullshit Emergency Response Act 2020, 25A, removal of children. Remove a child from any premises, place, vehicle or vessel to be placed of residence of the child or to a hospital or quarantine facility as the authorised officer thinks fit, and may in doing so use such force as is reasonably necessary. I am exempt from wearing a face mask because I say so. I don't need anybody's permission to breathe freely, regardless of whatever arbitrary words a bunch of politicians I never voted for scribbled on some piece of paper. If other people breathing freely scares you, wrap yourself in bubble wrap and stay the F up inside forever. My freedom doesn't end where your fear begins. Dido Harding. Husband, John Penrose. She is married to Conservative Party Member of Parliament John Penrose, who sits on the advisory board of think tank 1828, which calls for the NHS to be replaced by an insurance system and for Public Health England to be scrapped. Mask hole. A person who believes citizens must relinquish their freedoms in the name of the greater good as defined by their government. A person who assimilates into a propaganda perpetrated lifestyle. A person who disregards scientific evidence. A person who chooses to follow faulty statistical models. A person who lacks critical thinking skills. And don't call them masks anymore, call them muzzles, which is what they really are. Poisons are the backbone of the entire pharmaceutical industry. The poisoned children become customers for life. And if you're an adult, you'll also become a customer to them for life. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. If you feel stupid, just remember, there are people who are going to wear masks while having sex because the government told them to. Paedophilia is a sexual orientation. Touch my kids and I will murder you with my bare hands and smile in the courtroom. Period. What? You refuse to wear a mask? I hope you and your children are one of the 0.008% of people that get bullshit and die. That'll teach you to be compassionate like me. Fox scaring sheep in 1820. Fox scaring sheep in 2020. If you're not happy single, you won't be happy dating someone. Happiness comes from overthrowing the government and holding the politicians that stole our freedoms accountable. Outside Bristol Zoo, there is a car park for 150 cars and 8 buses. For 25 years, its parking fees were managed by a very pleasant attendant. The fee were just £1.40 for cars and £7 for buses. Then one day, after 25 solid years of never missing a day of work, he just didn't show up. So the zoo management called the city council and asked it to send them another parking agent. The council did some research and replied that the car park was the zoo's own responsibility. The zoo advised the council that the attendant was a city employee. The city council responded that the lot attendant had never been on the city payroll. Meanwhile, sitting in his villa somewhere off the coast of Spain or France or Italy is a man who'd apparently had a ticket machine installed completely off his own, and then he had simply begun to show up every day, commencing to collect and keep the parking fees, estimated at about £560 per day, for 25 years. Assuming 7 days a week, this amounts to just over £5 million, and no one even knows his name. Legend. Bill Gates never finished college, not an engineer, not a doctor, not an epidemiologist, not a virologist, not elected. Owns virus patents, owns poison companies, visited Epstein's Island several times. His own qualification is money. Why aren't you wearing a mask? You obviously don't care about being healthy like I do. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but bullshit will never hurt me. Former TalkTalk executive with no public health experience put in charge of new Public Health England's body. MP Justin Madders said he is literally speechless about the appointment. And of course, they want to get rid of Public Health England, so you deliberately put someone in that is not qualified and will help to take it down. And then they get a nice big kickback for doing their job, don't they? Health traitor Matt Wancock will reportedly announce on Tuesday that the Conservative peer will head the government's new Institute for Health Protection, which will replace Public Health England. The former chief executive of TalkTalk was appointed in May to lead England's contact tracing programme, which relies on identifying people who have been in contact with a positive bullshit case and getting them to self-isolate. Dido Harding, a Tory peer with no public health experience, who presided over the privately outsourced test and trace debacle, is to be installed as boss of the agency replacing Public Health England. This shows utter contempt for the NHS and public health. Performance and value for money. Since then, the programme has faced questions about performance and value for money. An NHS app was said to be key to the scheme, but had been beset by delays, with the launch of a new public trial announced just days ago. Mr. Wancock first suggested the app would be available in mid-May, but the government ditched the efforts to develop its own technology in June amid accuracy issues and concerns about privacy. Baroness Harding led telecoms giant TalkTalk when it suffered a massive cyber attack in October 2015, when hackers accessed 157,000 customers' details, including bank account numbers. Perfect for the job then. Exposed. World Bank bullshit aid comes with conditions for imposing extreme lockdown, reveals Belarus president. Huge foreign loans are given to sovereign nations by the World Bank, IMF and the likes. But the conditions that come attached to these loans are seldom told by governments to their citizens. A recent case in Belarus has exposed the conditions laid by these agencies for loans being provided for bullshit. The president of Belarus has exposed that the World Bank bullshit aid comes with conditions for imposing extreme lockdown measures to model their bullshit response on that of Italy, and even changes in the economic policies which he refused as being unacceptable. Exposing Belarus, World Bank bullshit aid comes with conditions for imposing extreme lockdown. Additional conditions which do not apply to the financial part are unacceptable for Belarus. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko said when speaking about external lending during a meeting to discuss support measures for the real economic sector of the part of the banking system, reported Belarusian telegraph agency Belta. Alexander Lukashenko asked the participants of the meeting how things were with the provisions of foreign credit assistance to Belarus. What are our partners' requirements? It was announced that they can provide Belarus with $940 million in so-called rapid financing. How are things here? The head of the state inquired. At the same time, he stressed that additional conditions which do not apply to the financial part of are unacceptable for the country. We hear the demands, for example, to model our bullshit response on that of Italy. I do not want to see the Italian situation to repeat in Belarus. We have our own country and our own situation, the president said. According to the president, the World Bank has shown interest in Belarus' bullshit response practices.
If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic and/or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent. For the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. Joseph Goebbels.
Mandatory vaccination is in direct violation of the Nuremberg Code. What is the Nuremberg Code? When World War II ended in 1945, the victorious Allied powers enacted the International Military Tribunal on November 19, 1945. As part of the tribunal, a series of trials were held against major war criminals and Nazi sympathizers holding leadership positions in political, military and economic areas. The first trial conducted under the Nuremberg military tribunals in 1947 became known as the Doctors' Trial, in which 23 physicians from the German Nazi Party were tried for crimes against humanity for their atrocious experiments they carried out on unwilling prisoners of war. Many of the grotesque medical experiments took place at the Auschwitz concentration camp, where Jewish prisoners were tattooed with dehumanizing numbers onto their arms, numbers that would later be used to identify their bodies after death. The Doctors' Trial is officially titled The United States of America v. Karl Brandt et al., and it was conducted at the Palace of Justice in Nuremberg, Bavaria, Germany. The trial was conducted here because this was one of the few largely undamaged buildings that remained intact from extensive Allied bombing during the war. It is also said to have been symbolically chosen because it was the ceremonial birthplace of the Nazi Party. Of the 23 defendants, 16 were found guilty, of which 7 received death sentences and 9 received prison sentences, ranging from 10 years to life imprisonment. The other 7 defendants were acquitted. The verdict also resulted in the creation of the Nuremberg Code, a set of 10 ethical principles for human experimentation. What are the Nuremberg Code ethical guidelines for research? The Nuremberg Code aimed to protect human subjects from enduring the kind of cruelty and exploitation the prisoners endured at concentration camps. The 10 elements of the code are: 1. Voluntary consent is essential. 2. The result of any experiment must be for the greater good of society. 3. Human experiment should be based on previous animal experimentation. 4. Experiments should be conducted by avoiding physical, mental suffering and injury. 5. No experiment should be conducted if it is believed to cause death or disability. 6. The risk should never exceed the benefits. 7. Adequate facilities should be used to protect subjects. 8. Experiments should be conducted only by qualified scientists. 9. Subjects should be able to end their participation at any time. 10. The scientists in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment when injury, disability, or death is likely to occur. Poisons are in direct violation of the Nuremberg Code. Forced, coerced, and mandated poisons are a violation of these principles. A violation of Article 6 of the UNESCO 2005 Statement on Biometrics and Human Rights. Article 6, Section 1. Any preventative, diagnostic, and therapeutic medical intervention is only to be carried out with the prior, free, and informed consent of the person concerned. JFK Jr. sues Facebook, Zuckerberg, and so-called fact-checkers for poison censorship. Washington, D.C. Children's Health Defense, CHD, filed a lawsuit on Monday in San Francisco federal court charging Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and 3 fact-checking outfits with censoring truthful public health posts and for fraudulently misrepresenting and defaming CHD. According to CHD complaint, Facebook has insidious conflicts with the pharmaceutical industry and its captive health agencies and has economic stakes in telecom and kill weapon. Facebook currently censors CHD's pages, targeting its purge against factual information about poisons and kill weapon and public health agencies. Facebook acknowledges that it coordinates its censorship campaign with the WHO and the CDC, while earlier court decisions have upheld Facebook's right to censor its pages. CHD argues that Facebook's pervasive government collaboration make its censorship of CHD a First Amendment violation. The government's role in Facebook censorship goes deeper than its close coordination with the CDC and WHO. The Facebook censorship began at the suggestion of powerful Democratic Congressman and Intelligence Committee Chairman Representative Adam Schiff, who in March 2019 asked Facebook to suppress and purge internet content critical to government poison policies. Facebook and Schiff used the term misinformation as a euphemism for any statement, whether truthful or not, that contradicts official government pronouncements. The WHO issued a press release commending Facebook for coordinating its ongoing censorship campaign with public health officials. The same day, Facebook published a warning label on CHD page which implies that CHD's content is inaccurate and directs CHD followers to turn to the CDC for reliable, up-to-date information. This is an important First Amendment case that tests the boundaries of government authority to openly censor unwanted critique of government. Attorney Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Roger Teague, and Mary Holland represent Children's Health Defense in the litigation. The lawsuit also challenges Facebook's use of so-called independent fact-checkers. We know they're not independent at all, and they couldn't check anything, which in truth are neither independent nor fact-based, to create opposition content on CHD's page, literally superimposed over CHD's original content about open matters of science controversy. To further silence CHD's dissent against important government policies and its critique of pharmaceutical products, Facebook deactivated CHD's donate button and uses a variety of deceptive technology, i.e. shadow banning, to minimize the reach and visibility of CHD's content. In short, Facebook and the government collude to silence CHD and its followers. Such tactics are fundamentally at odds with the First Amendment, which guarantees the American public the benefits of democracy from free flow of information in the marketplace of ideas. It forbids the government from censoring private speech, particularly speech that criticises government policies or officials. As Justice Holmes famously said, the best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market. The current bullshit makes this need for open and fierce public debate on health issues more critical than ever. Mark Zuckerberg publicly claims that social media platforms shouldn't be the arbiters of truth. The case exposes Zuckerberg for working with the government to suppress and purge unwanted critiques of government officials and policies. The science and law of refusing to wear masks, or muzzles as it should be called. On the 30th of March, former Supreme Court Justice Jonathan Sumpter, QC, reminded the British people the police have no power to enforce ministers' preferences, but only legal regulations, which don't go anything like as far as the government's guidance. There is nothing in existing legislation, neither the Bullshit Act 2020 nor the Health Protection Bullshit Restrictions England Regulations 2020, that empowers a police officer to compel a UK citizen to wear a mask on public transport or anywhere else. Even if the government rushes through an amendment to this effect by the 15th of June, emergency measures in violation of our human rights and civil liberties need to be justified and proportionate in order to be legal. The overwhelming mass of medical and scientific opinion is not only that masks do nothing to stop the spread of bullshit, but that they may even endanger the wearer and are therefore in contravention of Article 2 of the Human Rights Act 1998, right to life. I hope the UK citizens will unite in civil disobedience to this unlawful, unjustified and disproportionate violation of our human rights and refuse either to wear a mask or to pay the fixed penalty notice for not doing so. If enough of us take a stand against this further encroachment on our civil liberties, we can look forward to hundreds of thousands of court cases in which the Crown tries to prove the scientific validity to wearing muzzles to combat a made-up piece of shit that has been circulating in the UK for at least 5 months. All the king's horses and all the king's men are on standby. And I can tell 500 lies, and I will tell 500 more. When you start fingering yourself, but your sister comes instead. The wife and me F like rabbits every night. You lucky bastard, I only get it once a month and I call it the Bruce Lee night. Why the F do you call it that? Because it's the night I enter the dragon. Yeah, I'm sure you can all figure that one out. Nutella. I walked in the bedroom to find my wife dead in the bed the other day. Looking at her lifeless there, I decided to have one last go. Right in the middle, she opened her eyes and shouted, "Boo!" Honestly, some people are effing sick in their head. Day 18 of lockdown. Filled the dog with helium. I don't claim to know much about life-saving, but if anyone is going to bring this guy back to life, my money is on the girl on the right. COVID-19 test centre closed. It's much simpler now. The government predicts what your test results would have been. 12 commandments for seniors. 1. It's okay to talk to yourself. There are times you need expert advice. 2. In style are the clothes that still fit. 3. You don't need anger management. You need people to stop pissing you off. 4. Your people skills are just fine. It's your tolerance for idiots that needs work. 5. The biggest lie you tell yourself is, I don't need to write that down, I'll remember it. 6. On time is when you get there. 7. Even duct tape can't fix stupid, but it sure does muffle the sound. 8. It would be wonderful if we could put ourselves in the dryer for 10 minutes, then come out wrinkle-free and 3 sizes smaller. 9. Lately, you've noticed people your age are so much older than you. 10. Growing old should have taken longer. 11. Aging has slowed you down, but it hasn't shut you up. 12. You still haven't learned to act your age and hope you never will. On one for the road means peeing before you leave the house. Winter's coming. Be prepared. If Carlsberg did illegal immigrants.
Dennis Healy. World events do not occur by accident. They are made to happen, whether it is to do with national issues or commerce, and most of them are staged and managed by those who hold the purse strings.